The Quran contains a verse that I cited very often before, and that I will cite very often in the future. I think it's one of the most important Quran verses. Chapter 9, verse 30. It reads, "The Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah, and the Christians say the Messiah is the son of Allah. That is their statements from their mouths. They imitated the saying of those who disbelieved. May Allah destroy them. How are they deluded?" If you have any knowledge on the Bible, Judaism, or Christianity, you might spot the problem in this verse right away. I will try to simplify it briefly for all others. This verse mentions beliefs allegedly held by Jews and Christians, such as believing that Ezra or Jesus were the sons of Allah, or God. Then it likens them to disbelievers without specifying what disbelievers. Then, in a weird way, even though it's supposed to be the word of Allah itself, it says, "May Allah curse them," and calls them deluded. Other prominent translations deliver the same thing. Only the cursing and deluded part differ slightly, but the message remains: Christians and Jews are deluded. Sincerely, Almighty Dude of Religion of Tolerance. According to Islamic belief, Allah is the same God of the Jews and the Christians, the God of the Bible. And therefore, whenever the Quran says Allah, it means the God of the Bible too. The Quran is pretty much correct about what Christians believe, that the Messiah, Jesus, is the Son of God. Well, at least it got that one right. What it is not correct about at all is the first part of the verse, that Jews say Ezra is the son of Allah. This verse confuses everyone, even Muslims. So much that you can see Muslims online asking what this Quran verse is and what we are supposed to do with the weird information given in this Quran verse. The confusion is very well justified. Jews believe in the one God of the Bible. Jews also believe in the sanctity of rabbis and prophets. Jews do not believe that there is an actual Son of God. According to biblical beliefs, Ezra is only a priest, an important one since he played a big role in restoring the law and initiating a lot of old and current Jewish practices. In some Jewish traditions, he was held higher than in others and seen equal to Moses. But no credible proof at all shows us any Jewish sect that ever idolized Ezra or thought that he was of any supernatural nature. So the Quran verse says Jews, not many Jews or some Jews. It says Jews.
Let us address the claim that Surah 9:30, which states, "The Jews say, Ezra is the son of Allah, and the Christians say, the Messiah is the son of Allah." That is their statement from their mouths. They imitate the saying of those who disbelieved before them. May Allah destroy them. How are they deluded? The accusation is that this verse is inaccurate, as no Jewish sect has been recorded to worship Ezra as the Son of God. To fully understand this, we need to unpack the historical, linguistic, and contextual aspects of this verse, which critics often ignore. The Quran is not just a book of laws, but also a text of spiritual guidance aimed at correcting theological and moral deviations. Surah 9:30 falls within a broader critique of distorted beliefs in the Abrahamic faiths, specifically addressing the deviation from monotheism in both Jewish and Christian communities. The verse itself does not claim that all Jews believe that Ezra is the son of God. It specifically points to a particular group or sect that adopted this view. The Quran's approach is consistent throughout. It critiques theological errors, some of which may be held by minority or sectarian groups, without implying that the entire community shares those beliefs. This method of addressing errors is not new to the Quran. For example, when the Quran addresses the children of Israel, Bani Israel, it often refers to their collective failings, even though not all Israelites engaged in those actions. This rhetorical style is meant to highlight and correct the errors, not to indict an entire group. While mainstream Judaism today firmly adheres to the belief in one God, historical evidence suggests that certain Jewish sects, particularly in the region of pre-Islamic Arabia, held unconventional beliefs, and some may have been inclined towards syncretism, blending their religious teachings with surrounding influences. The Babylonian Talmud. The Babylonian Talmud, Sanhedrin 21b, exalts Ezra as a highly revered figure, even comparing him to Moses in terms of his religious stature. The Talmud states that had the Torah not been given through Moses, Ezra would have been worthy to receive it. This level of reverence could easily be misinterpreted or even misrepresented by some groups, elevating Ezra to a divine status, especially in times when oral traditions and local interpretations carried significant weight. It is within this context that certain Jewish groups could have mistakenly or intentionally elevated Ezra to the status of the Son of God. Jewish sectarianism in Arabia. Before the advent of Islam, the Arabian Peninsula was home to several Jewish tribes, including Banu Qurayza and Banu Nadir. These tribes lived in relative isolation from the larger Jewish communities in the Roman and Persian empires, and, as a result, were more prone to adopting syncretic beliefs influenced by their environment. Historian Montgomery Watt and Islamic scholar Alfred Guillaume have noted that these groups were likely to develop unique theological perspectives, some of which could have included elevated figures like Ezra to divine status. Pre-Islamic oral traditions. Pre-Islamic Arabian society was deeply rooted in oral traditions, where stories and beliefs could easily morph over time. The elevation of religious figures, such as Ezra, to divine status in some circles could have been part of this oral tradition. The Quran addresses this belief not as a universally held view among Jews, but as a distortion that had emerged within certain sects in Arabia. This exposure of the deviation serves as a corrective to the larger theological community. Critics often argue that the Quran's use of the word Jews in Surah 9:30 is a blanket statement, implying that all Jews believe Ezra is the Son of God. However, this is a misinterpretation of the Arabic linguistic style. In Arabic, the Quran frequently employs a collective term to address specific groups, especially when critiquing the actions of a few within that group. This is not an uncommon rhetorical device. For instance, when the Quran addresses the children of Israel, Bani Israel, it does so collectively, even though not all Israelites participated in the acts mentioned. Similarly, when the Quran refers to the Jews or the Christians, it addresses those who hold certain beliefs or engage in particular actions, not necessarily all members of those communities. In the case of Surah 9:30, the Quran is addressing a deviation held by a specific group of Jews in pre-Islamic Arabia, not all Jews throughout history. The Quran's use of the Jews is a linguistic device to refer to the community as a whole, even though the verse critiques a specific belief held by some. Critics also challenge the Quran's statement, "May Allah destroy them," interpreting it as a call for violence or intolerance. However, this is a misunderstanding of the verse's tone and purpose. The phrase, "May Allah destroy them," is not a call for violence against individuals, but a condemnation of theological corruption. In the Quran, Allah expresses his displeasure with the association of partners with him, shirk. The destruction referred to is spiritual, an admonition against the dangers of corrupting the pure concept of monotheism. It reflects the Quran's consistent stance on the importance of preserving Tawheed and rejecting any form of polytheism or deification of human beings, regardless of their religious status. The criticism of Surah 9:30 overlooks the historical, linguistic, and theological context in which the verse was revealed. The Quran addresses specific theological deviations within certain Jewish sects in pre-Islamic Arabia, not the beliefs of all Jews throughout history. Historical sources such as the Talmud and accounts of Jewish sectarianism support the plausibility of the claim that some Jewish groups may have elevated Ezra to divine status. Furthermore, the Quran's role is not to document every historical detail, but to provide spiritual guidance and correct theological errors. Surah 9:30 should be understood as part of the broader Quranic mission to preserve the purity of Tawheed and prevent the deification of any human figure. By understanding the verse within its proper context, we see that it offers a profound critique of theological distortion and a call to return to the pure monotheism that unites all Abrahamic faiths. Indeed, Allah does not shy away from explaining the truth. Quran 33:53.